speaker, which we will include insights from Raleigh Mayor Mary Ann Baldwin, who is here, Wake County Commission Chair Shanika Thomas, who has a special message for you, and then Wake County Board of Education Vice Chair Chris Hagerty. Following their remarks, we're going to have a Q&A session up here with those officials and the senior staff that assist them in their decision making and help implement their vision. So we'll get to that Q&A. So if you have any questions, also maybe jot them down as we go through this, because we'd love to have your input in the Q&A. But before we get started, we want to just take a moment to recognize all the wonderful sponsors that make this event happen and a partnership with the elected officials. So want to join me in thanking some of those folks, including CVS Health and Aetna, Katie, which is in the front here. You guys can raise your hands if you like. Clancy and Thays Construction Company as well. Lots of signs with that around town in Raleigh with all the building. CPL Architecture, Engineering, Planning. Also Dewberry, Grail, and Martin Marietta. Thank you all for your sponsorships that make this event possible. Really appreciate it. And thank you to today's media sponsor, Univision 40. Thank you so much. Muchas gracias. We would also like to recognize our elected officials and government staff that are with us here today. I know there's a lot of you, so we certainly appreciate all the important work you do on behalf of this region. If you are an elected or appointed official or a government staffer, please stand to be recognized. Let's give them all a big round of applause. And we are streaming this on abc11.com as well, the entire event, which hopefully you can play back on our app afterwards if you ever want to show any of it or go back and take a look. So speaking of social media as well, if you'd love to join, we would love you to join in on today's conversation on Twitter. Use the hashtag SOCCS23. SOCCS23, and you can also tweet at Raleigh Chamber as well for any of your tweets. So without further ado, our conversation today begins with Mayor Mary Ann Baldwin on the state of the city of Raleigh. A lot of you know Mayor Baldwin was the first elected to the Raleigh City Council in 2007. She has been in a leadership position here for a very long time as an at-large member serving 5 terms before she was elected mayor in 2019 and then re-elected in 2022. She does so much besides being the mayor. She has, of course, her 2 dogs, which I'm obsessed with, and I always like to talk about her dogs, and she can tell you more because their names are the greatest. She also serves on numerous nonprofit boards in the area, including Communities in School of Wake County, Art Explorers of the American Lung Association, and she is a member of the William Peace University Board of Trustees and the Wake Tech Foundation Board of Directors. So please join me in welcoming Mayor Mary Ann Baldwin with her remarks.
For those of you who are curious, my dogs' names are Jack Bauer and Charlie Brown, and they both act out their names. So here's a warning. Watch out what you name your pet. They will live up to it. Yeah, the 10-pound Morkie thinks he's 50 pounds, but that's for another day. We're here to talk about some important stuff. Okay, the slide is up. Before we begin, I see some of my fellow council members out there, Councilmember Melton, Councilmember Harrison, and Councilmember Patton. If you could just wave. Anybody else from council? All right. Well, I just want to say we have had quite the year in Raleigh. One of the most successful and spectacular events in our city's history was the 2023 NHL Stadium Series. We sold out the game in record time. I love this, despite the fact that the league believed we couldn't sell it out at all. Ha! We showed them. The Stadium Series resulted in more than 18,000 hotel room nights. Denny, I know you're happy about that. And also had an economic impact of more than $20 million. That's amazing. Speaking of hockey, the Carolina Hurricanes, average game attendance now ranks second in the National Hockey League. Second. Only behind Montreal, which claims to have invented modern-day ice hockey. That's an amazing statistic. It also shows the support and enthusiasm that people have for this team. Going to the Stanley Cup Finals was icing on the cake, and I can't wait to see what happens next year. But now let's talk about the biggest challenge facing our region and the country: housing affordability and choice. Okay, now I have to figure out how to get this to work. Okay, there we go. As I said, affordable housing is a critical part of our community's health. The latest City of Raleigh community survey showed that residents believe the lack of affordable housing is the biggest challenge facing our region. This is a key focus of our city's strategic plan. For the past 10 years, we set a goal that by 2026, we would create 5,700 affordable housing units. To date, we've created or preserved more than 3,500 units and committed funds toward another 2,000 units that are in the pipeline. I'm going to note just a few successes. In May, we awarded $7 million in city funds to 3 affordable rental developments for a total of 292 units. Also in May, we had a great ribbon cutting and gathering to celebrate the Summit at Sawyer. This site will soon provide affordable housing units to more than 150 families. We're also identifying suitable city-owned land and making them available to our partners, nonprofit who build this type of housing. In the past 2 months, we released 3 requests for proposals. In a similar vein, we also launched the second year of the small-scale rental development pilot, making available another 20 city-owned lots and seeking nonprofit partners to create smaller-scale housing. And I'm not going to steal the county's thunder. I'm sure they're going to mention this, but we worked with the county to create a fund to preserve naturally occurring affordable housing. We partnered with CASA on the first community come out of this effort. Like other cities throughout the country, we have an unprecedented number of residents who are unhoused. One of the first things I did after getting reelected as mayor was reach out to County Commission Chair Thomas and ask her to partner with us on a new task force to address issues facing our unsheltered community. Councilmember Stormy Fort is heading up this task force along with County Commissioner Vicki Adamson. See Vicki here. Thank you for those efforts. They are looking at new initiatives, identifying needs, and will be making recommendations for action in early 2024. Over the past year, the city has provided more than $500,000 to nonprofits to provide emergency shelter. This includes supporting white flag operations during the winter months, where we provided almost 700 people with access to emergency shelter. The city also provided a $100,000 grant to Campbell University Law School to launch the Blanchard Community Law Clinic. They are focused on preventing evictions. And we awarded $525,000 in funding to Passage Home and Triangle Family Services for the Homeless Diversion Pilot Program. Another important piece, outreach and innovation. Last year, the Housing and Neighborhoods Department hosted an open house on affordable housing with many of our nonprofit partners. More than 1,000 people, 1,000, showed up. This type of education and outreach is critical as we come up with solutions and also hear from our residents in need. On the innovation front, our Strategy and Innovation Department hosted an ADU Pitch Fest last month. Very well attended. For those who don't know, ADUs are short for accessory dwelling units, also known as granny flats or backyard cottages. We made the construction of ADUs a top priority, and now we're working to incentivize their construction. So we can't wait to see what big ideas are generated from this. I've been working on this now for 10 years, so I'm really excited to talk about bus rapid transit. And guess what? Our first bus rapid transit line on New Bern Avenue will start construction in the fall. Bus rapid transit, for those of you who yes, that's big. Bus rapid transit is provides dedicated bus lanes, traffic signal priority, there's off-board fare collection, and elevated platforms and enhanced station experiences. This helps people move faster. It'll be 10-minute service. And we are having some major discussions with businesses now on how we help them during this effort. The construction is expected to last about 2 years, but when it's done, we're going to have a whole new way for people to get around. And this is also our busiest transit line. So it's going to really make quality of life better for a lot of people. City is actually a project sponsor for 4 corridors. Besides New Bern, we have the Southern Corridor, which is Wilmington Street going to Gardner. After that, we have Western Boulevard, and then we will work on the Northern Corridor along Capitol Boulevard. This is going to help build ridership for regional rail. And a quick note on that. Number of us elected leaders went to the FTA in Washington, D.C. several months ago. We learned that the FTA is no longer funding commuter rail. Billions of dollars being lost in metro areas because of people working from home. And commuting patterns have shifted. So we're having some major discussions right now with Go Triangle and others, our region, on how we can initiate hourly passenger rail service connecting our region over the next decade. This is my top priority for 2023-24. We have to get on the right path. Economic development, have some good news there. Few key announcements this past year. We assisted in developing a new industrial product at Eagle Crest in Southeast Raleigh. We opened new headquarter locations for Boone Edom and Rapid Scale and celebrated the expansion of the Schmaltz headquarters in Raleigh. We also met with some foreign delegations. They're coming here to learn what we're doing in Raleigh, and we're learning from them. And also, we reactivated our marketing efforts to position Raleigh as a business powerhouse. We have a new website, Raleigh EconDev, econdev.org. Check it out. And we also secured 30 new articles and rankings. Raleigh was named number 3 on the 2023 Milken Institute Best Performing Cities Index. We named one of the fastest growing tech hubs for IT, and we're named one of the most beautiful and affordable places to live by Travel and Leisure. Thanks, Maria. So I know there's a lot of questions about downtown. I see Bill King here. We have short-term goals and long-term goals. Short-term, we are working with Bill and the Downtown Raleigh Alliance. You have done an amazing job activating downtown, bringing back Live After 5, First Friday, Movies in the Park, all of these things that are meant to bring people back to our center city. I want to commend all of you for your efforts. We also expanded the social district. Bill likes this. 90% of the survey respondents, when asked about the social district, this is where you can walk around downtown and bring your drinks. Yeah. 90% said they were in favor of this and highly enthused. And Bill said, that's better than the Christmas tree lighting. Some other good news. Downtown has seen more than 30 new storefront businesses open this year, and hotels have seen their revenues increase by 36%. So that's good news coming out of the pandemic. We've also announced plans to build a new convention center hotel and a residential tower project on what is now surface parking. Jonathan Melton, I know you like hearing this. Surface parking, we got to get rid of it. We got to start building. Use it in a more productive way. So this hotel and the expansion of the convention center are key to bringing more conventions and bringing new energy to this part of downtown. But longer term, we have to create neighborhoods downtown. Now, I've been talking about this, but when I heard Richard Florida talking about this, I was like, is he copying me or am I copying him? But the fact is, this is the new trend. Look at Smoky Hollow. Look at what has happened there near P Street and West Street. Hundreds of people on the street. They're walking their dogs. They're walking to the grocery store. They're carrying their yoga mats and walking to yoga class. That's the kind of walkable community we want to create. But what I want to say is we are on the right path. Downtown Raleigh has more residential units under construction than ever before in its history. More than 2,000 units are planned for delivery between 2023 and 2024. And our downtown occupancy rate is nearly 95%. So you can see there's a need. Okay, our top budget priority, policing and public safety. With a new budget, we made a statement, and that is that public safety, our police officers, firefighters, and emergency management staff must be a priority. We awarded significant raises and funding for public safety personnel. Chief Estelle Patterson's top priorities are to reduce violent crime, enhance community engagement, and strengthen morale among our city staff. Policing is a stressful job. We've got to help officers take care of themselves and each other. One of the ways we've been doing this, I love this. RPD is ensuring the wellness of its officers through these emotional support animals. I love this. They will help emotional support for employees and members of the community who have experienced trauma. And I just want to thank the Raleigh Police Foundation for raising the funds to purchase these animals for the department. Are they not cute or what? Okay, that was a lot to absorb, people. But bear with me. One more thing. I want to end on a point of celebration. Fireworks for a reason. First off, I am so excited about the fact that Raleigh has made an offer to buy the old DMV headquarters on New Bern Avenue. We're waiting. It's been approved by the Council of State. We're waiting for it to go through the process. But this will be a game changer for that area and also set the gold standard for how we redevelop along a bus rapid transit line. Had to say, that is probably the highlight of my year. I also want to point out that we passed a $275 million parks bond last year. 73% of voters voted in favor of this. Dix Park, we now have the Gibson Play Plaza under construction, and as you could see, we had a little fireworks show there the other day. We had more than 25,000 people show up to participate in the festivities and enjoy, I think, one of the best fireworks shows I've ever seen. So we have lots of great things going on in our city, but we also have work to do. I'm counting on us, with the county, and the business community, that means all of you, to come together to get the work done so we remain one of the best places to live, work, and do business in the country. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mayor Baldwin. I just saw her at that huge fireworks display last week, which was a lot of fun. And just to give the city a plug, Spin Doctors is live after 5 next Wednesday. If you guys want to join me, call me because I'm going for sure. That's on my calendar, the 19th. So it's now my pleasure to introduce some video comments by Wake County Commission Chair Shanika Thomas. Chair Thomas has served on the Board of Commissioners since 2020 and was selected by her peers as the chair for 2023, and before that served as a regional HR manager with the Target Corporation and was responsible for opening and staffing many of the stores in the Triangle. Chair Thomas could not be here today with us, but wanted to share her thoughts on the past year and vision for the future. So please direct your attention to the screens here for a special word from her.
Hi everyone, my name is Shanika Thomas and I'm the chair of the Wake County Board of Commissioners. I wish I could be with you in person today, but I'm following in my son's footsteps on my way to Harvard so I can learn from experts about how to be the best leader I can be for Wake County. The good news is that we're all used to virtual speakers and meetings now, right? I want to start by thanking the Raleigh Chamber for hosting this wonderful event and for giving me the opportunity to speak via video. I know that some of my fellow commissioners are in the room today. Please stand and be recognized for your hard work on behalf of the community. Let's give them a round of applause. We're doing great things together, and I'm excited to share those accomplishments with you as I talk about the state of the county. Wake County is growing. We're nearly 1.2 million people strong, adding an average of 56 people a day. That makes us one of the 5 fastest growing counties with more than 1 million residents in the nation. Our community is also skewing older. Nearly half of the people moving here now are seniors. In fact, we're on track to have more residents over 60 than children under 18 by 2029. Pretty wild, isn't it? That's why it's so important for us to study our population. The data we glean helps us plan for the unique challenges and needs of our changing community. You've probably noticed that more new homes are being built across the county to accommodate our new neighbors. So it's no surprise that last year's residential construction landed just shy of pre-recession numbers. While Raleigh continues to grow, other municipalities are booming too. Places like Garner, Cary, Wake Forest, Fuquay-Varina, Apex, and Wendell. While we have a lot to celebrate, Wake County is not immune to widespread economic concerns like inflation and a tight labor market. Construction materials, security contracts, fire trucks, they all cost more. We took that into consideration while developing our fiscal year 2024 budget. We also examined our staffing needs and our community needs. It resulted in a $1.87 billion operating budget that will help make Wake County an even better place to live, work, learn, and play. The budget went into effect July 1st, and since I don't expect you to read all 400 pages of it, I'll just give you a couple highlights. The first one is public safety, one of our top priorities. We added 20 new positions and 3 ambulances to Wake County EMS to meet the rising number of 911 calls for help. We're also working closely with Sheriff Willie Rowe to keep our public school teachers, staff, and students safe. This year, we'll have 5 additional school resource officers, plus an investigator to work specifically on school-related cases. Our emergency personnel keep us safe every day, and this year we're investing in additional gear to protect them in return. We're buying a second set of turnout gear for all firefighters in the fire tax district. Having a clean, decontaminated set of protective gear, especially on back-to-back calls, will greatly reduce their risk of cancer. We're also purchasing bulletproof vests and helmets for our fire and EMS personnel. It's a sad reality that our frontline workers can sometimes face the threat of gun violence. But when those teams requested better protection, we answered their call. We're also investing in fire safety through recruitment and training. Last month, I had the pleasure of seeing 28 new cadets graduate from the Fire Academy. They're the first class to receive full salary and benefits while completing the intensive 38-week training we provide in partnership with Wake Tech. By investing American Rescue Plan Act funds in our Career in a Year program, we were able to launch a grassroots recruitment campaign aimed at attracting diverse candidates who reflect our community. The outreach efforts and fair pay drew an enormous pool of qualified applicants last year, and again for our upcoming academy, with about 45% of them having diverse backgrounds, a historic high for us. Providing more and better materials to trainees to help them succeed also resulted in an all-time high success rate in certification passing rates. By recruiting, training, and retaining firefighters with a wide variety of backgrounds and experiences, we know they'll be better equipped to work in the community when responding to emergencies. We've allocated another $1.5 million for the next class, which will start this fall. Another initiative we want to highlight today is our Affordable Housing Preservation Fund. In partnership with Self-Help Ventures Fund, the City of Raleigh, and private banks, we've collectively amassed $61.7 million to preserve existing affordable rental units. We're off to a strong start with 62 units preserved already. And that's on top of the new affordable units we're helping create through developer financing programs that will lock in affordable rates for decades. So far in 2023, we have created or preserved 707 units in Raleigh, Cary, and Rolesville. Education is the biggest piece of our budget, accounting for about 3 out of every $5, totaling more than $1 billion. That's billion with a B. This year, we're investing more than ever before in our vision to support our residents' education from cradle to career. We're expanding funding for Smart Start to more than $5 million, so income-eligible families can enroll their 3- and 4-year-olds in high-quality preschool programs. We know this opportunity will put them on a path toward better reading comprehension and higher graduation rates. Last fall, we launched Wake 3 School, opening the program to 100 3-year-olds whose families couldn't otherwise afford preschool. The response was so great that a long wait list formed instantly. This year, we're doubling the number of seats available to help support our youngest learners. We know that the needs of K-12 teachers, staff, and students are great in the Wake County Public School system. School leaders are trying to retain teachers and hire bus drivers by increasing wages, but it's hard to do when the state never provides enough funding. So Wake County is helping fill the gap. This year, we're increasing operating funds for the school district by $50 million, which brings our overall operating investment to more than $644 million. We're also investing in the 7-year capital improvement plan, which will fund 8 new schools and 14 big renovations, plus upgrade technology and equipment so we can give our students the space they need to learn. And I could never forget one of the biggest assets to Wake County, Wake Technical Community College. During budget hearings, we heard loud and clear that Wake Tech professor salaries were a priority, so we're investing an additional $1 million in faculty pay. That brings our total operating funding commitment to $33.5 million. We want to make sure that when Wake Tech's Eastern Campus opens the doors of its new technology building and public safety center next year, they'll be staffed with world-class professors who can focus on educating students. Just as we try to give every student access to a strong education, we also try to give every family access to healthy, nutritious food. That's why our board passed an updated food security plan. It builds on our existing efforts to ensure all families in Wake County can put food on the table. The plan will expand food hub capacity in our community, benefiting small farms by linking them with local buyers. The plan also includes pantry innovation grants to improve access to fresh foods that are more culturally relevant and support all dietary needs. We're adding more farmers markets, expanding a successful produce home delivery program, and continuing our partnership with the school system to provide universal breakfast and support with school pantries. We know this plan will make our local food system stronger and our residents healthier. That's why we invested $7.5 million of our American Rescue Plan Act funds in this updated plan. In this room of business leaders, I'm sure some of you can relate to these statistics. Last year, Wake County put more than 100 projects out for bid and signed more than 1,800 contracts for services. That's a lot. As we looked at the purchasing power of the county through an equity lens, we needed to know, are businesses owned by minorities and women getting a proportionate share of county contracts? To find out, we launched a disparity study and got the final report back from the consultant in April. It showed us areas we can improve and provide data-driven recommendations. So we're reimagining how we do this work. Thanks to investments in this year's budget, we're hiring a minority and women business enterprise coordinator to facilitate outreach and education to build those businesses' capacity. We have great programs to help even the playing field for these entrepreneurs, but they won't work if the business owners don't know about them. The new coordinator will also help make each stage of doing business with Wake County more inclusive and welcoming for all businesses. We've got exciting work happening in the world of parks too. Beach Bluff County Park will be our first new county park to open in 18 years. The gorgeous 240 acres between Garner and Fuquay-Varina will give residents in the southeastern part of the county access to exciting amenities like community gardens, outdoor classrooms, and walking trails. This year, we're investing in the resources and staffing needed for the new park, and we can't wait to welcome you all when it opens next year. This just scratches the surface of the great work happening in Wake County. We also supported the new legal support center that opened in January, invested in mental health crisis response facilities, and worked to give our 4,400 employees fair and competitive compensation. There's a lot for us to celebrate in Wake County, and there's also a lot of work to be done. If you've got questions, or you see a place you and your organization can plug into the work, please reach out to me and my fellow commissioners. We're happy to answer questions and excited to strengthen or create partnerships. Try as we might, my fellow commissioners and I do not have a magic wand. We know that it takes thoughtful research, hard work, and careful collaboration to accomplish our goals. My time as chair has proven my mantra for leadership over and over again. We are better together. Thank you.
And our thanks there to Wake County Commission Chair Shanika Thomas for her virtual comments. Obviously, she had a big engagement that she had to be at, but wishes she could be here. We're going to move on with our final speaker now before we get to the Q&A. So please write down any questions that you might have. We always love to have your questions. It's my pleasure now to introduce Wake County School Board Vice Chair Chris Hagerty, originally appointed to fill the vacant District 7 school board seat in 2018 and then re-elected in 2020, and he currently serves as the Vice Chair of the Wake County Board of Education and also on the Board of Directors of the North Carolina School Boards Association. He previously served in the North Carolina House of Representatives, where he sponsored numerous pieces of legislation around education and protecting children. Please join me now in welcoming Wake County Public School System Board Vice Chair Chris Hagerty.
All right, school board, old school, old guy. So good afternoon, everyone. I am Chris Hagerty, Vice Chair of the Wake County Board of Education, Raleigh resident since about 1978, Wake County Public Schools graduate and father of 2 WCPSS students rapidly approaching graduation. So if I seem a little tired, it is not the meal, it is not the program. I'd like to bring regrets from our board chair, Ms. Lindsay Mahaffey, who's traveling out of state today, but we are joined by several other members of the Wake County Board of Education who are here today, and I just wanted to recognize them. If you don't mind, I'm going to put you on the spot and ask that you stand. Ms. Tara Waters, Mr. Tyler Swanson, and Ms. Lynn Edmonds. Is there anybody that I missed who snuck in? Okay, great. This is our first public event that we've attended officially representing the school system since the retirement of our former superintendent, the great Cotty Moore. Now, many of you have had the opportunity to work with Cotty over the years. She's been part of the Wake County school system since 1988, and she is one of the strongest leaders I've ever had the pleasure of working with. She's also very averse to public praise, so since she's not here to scold me, I do want to make a point to make sure everyone knows how much we do value and appreciate all of her great leadership and all of the great things she's done, all the accomplishments she's done for all of us here in Wake County. But it would dishonor that progress that she has made if we did not continue to move forward. And so that's why I'm also proud today to recognize Wake County Public School System Interim Superintendent, Dr. Randy Bridges, who will be on the program with us a little bit later. Dr. Bridges? So Dr. Bridges brings more than 40 years of experience to this interim role. He's served as the superintendent for Orange County Schools, the Alamance-Burlington School System. He's been a classroom teacher, coach, middle school, and high school principal, associate superintendent of human resources, and of public relations. And so we're very grateful for Dr. Bridges' leadership and his partnership in helping us ensure a smooth transition from Ms. Moore to our new superintendent. And while his tenure with us will be abbreviated, I'm confident that we're in good hands. So I recognize a lot of friends out here today, so I'm just going to be frank and maybe a little off the cuff, maybe a little too off the cuff. But I would be lying if I said this was a boring time to be on the school board. I'm sure all of you have seen the craziness that's going on all around the country right now. We have some members of the public that come out to, it seems like they've decided that school board meetings are open mic night. And they'll come out and they'll say just about anything, no matter how far out there, just to generate social media content. I'm sure some of you are also aware of some of the challenges we face in North Carolina with public education funding from the state. And this particularly hits home when we look at the areas that we compete with around the country: Northern Virginia, Metro Atlanta, Nashville and Memphis, Orlando, Austin, and you look at the investments they're making in their schools. And you just wonder, with all of the great stuff that we do, how much better, how wonderful things could be here if we had that same level of state support that we see in those other states. This is a challenging time for public education, but I want to cut through the noise, and instead I want to provide you with what's really important. I want to tell you what we are doing and the fantastic results we're getting. I want to tell you how we're doing it and what we're going to continue to do going forward, and why it is so important to everyone in this community. So I'm pleased to share that as we open our new school year, the district is setting out on new pathways for excellence and equity. Now, despite all that aforementioned craziness, we are continuing to do great things in Wake County. I know many of you are already aware of this, but just in case you're not, or if you're new to the area, have you heard the good news? Let me share a few things with you. We are proud that here in Wake County, our students perform better in most subjects than students in similar-sized school districts across the state, and they outscore their state and national counterparts on their ACT exams, their SAT exams. Thank you. And we're just getting started. We had more than 11,000 students recently graduate with their high school diplomas that are now out there pursuing their college and their career aspirations. Here's something huge. In 2023, the class of 2023, our students earned more than $150 million in scholarship money to continue their education. So, I was talking to Michael earlier, you talk about the proof is in the pudding, right? This is a story to back this up. I was recently out at Panther Creek High School, one of the best high schools in the nation, and talking to Principal Gregory Decker. Dr. Decker was telling me where the students were matriculating to, where they were going, and I expected UNC, Duke, some of our local schools. He actually told me he had a surprising number of students that were going to Alabama, to Florida, to Auburn, to Vanderbilt, and it really took me by surprise. And so I asked him about this, and what he told me is that right now, Wake County Public School students are in such demand around the country that the private and the public universities all around the South are basically offering them in-state tuition to relocate to their states to attend their colleges. Now tell me that is not recognition of the job that we do right here in Wake County. It doesn't stop there. We have numbers of students that are going out that are entering military service. Some are enlisting and others are attending our nation's top elite military academies. Our four-year graduation rates now stand at around 90%, which is not only higher than the national average, we benchmark against ourselves, we're up from about 80% in 2012. So all of this is great, but realistically, if you're not a parent, what does this have to do with you? Why should you care? Well, you might have seen the news recently, just today, the big announcement that Wake County, the greater Raleigh area, we are once again one of the best places for business in the country. And when they talk about why, what is one of the things they specifically cite? They talk about education, job training, and a well-trained workforce. Folks, that is not an accident. That is the result of long years of intentional work supported by our county commission, by our municipal governments, by our school board, even by our state government. It goes deeper than just, luck or, well, we've attracted all of these people. We are growing talent right here. Thanks to our career and leadership academies and their commitment to career and technical education, many students right now are being trained in careers in information technology, engineering, health sciences, public safety, and finance. In my district in Morrisville, and I want to recognize our Morrisville folks here today, in partnership with great community partners like Fujifilm Diosynth and Wake Tech Community College, we have opened the Wake County Early College of Information and Biotechnologies, joining a half a dozen other early colleges and leadership academies across our county where students are earning not just college credits that they can take on with them, not just earning associate degrees, they're getting their career certifications in highly competitive, in-demand fields where they can go to work tomorrow and start earning a better than average competitive wage and start filling the jobs that we need to fill to keep our economy moving forward right here in Wake County and in Raleigh. Another one of our sponsors, I saw Grail. Is Grail here? I don't know how many of y'all know, you probably do. Grail is doing outstanding work in the areas of cancer detection and cancer detection technology. What you might not know is just down the road at Enloe High School, we have a group of students, high school students, that have invented their own new device for the early detection of cervical cancer and are going up to New York City to pitch that idea right now. We're helping train students who hopefully may be working with you all one day. And I also want to thank the City of Raleigh for helping to support those students on that trip up there. They're very appreciative and they couldn't have done it without your support, so thank you. We know that students who graduate from Wake County schools are more likely to find employment, are more likely to find not just to build economic success and prosperity from themselves, but they benefit the whole region. A well-educated population is healthier, more productive, and earns better wages. So let me tell you what we're doing next. This is the good news, these are the results. Our board has worked and developed a new strategic plan for the next 5 years to help ensure all students get what they need to be successful every day. And while the board adopted the plan, this wasn't just our work. This was the result of months of feedback. Thousands of members of the community, of parents, students, staff, community activists, and stakeholders all came together to talk about what they want to see in a public school graduate and a public school student. What sort of support are we providing for our staff, for our students? What sort of citizens are we putting out there into the community? This plan builds on our current successes and it reflects the changes that we must continue to make, especially as we look at the challenges as we all emerge from the recent pandemic. And the plan features 3 key areas: student knowledge and skills, student disposition and well-being, and operational effectiveness. Now, don't glaze over on me when we talk about strategic plans. I'm going to try to keep it, hop through it and just hit the high points of it. To execute this new vision, we will soon name a new superintendent. And the superintendent will be charged with ensuring that this new plan will be implemented in every sector of our organization. And folks, I really, really, really wanted to tell you today who that new superintendent would be. But we're going to have to wait until next Tuesday, July 18th, when it's all made official. I'm surprised we've been able to keep it a secret this long, but our board has been working long hours, very hard. We had a nationwide search, interviewed folks from all around the country, and all I will say is that I think we have a fantastic choice that'll benefit all of us here in Wake County. So, since we can't talk about the new superintendent, let me tell you about some of the other people who make this work possible. As I look out there, I know, talking to many of you through other chamber events, we have a lot of folks that are directly involved in employment. So, how many of you here today are employers? Just show of hands. Responsible for hiring, evaluation, supervision. All right. So you know today the challenges we face in the current economy and our labor market. Did you know WCPSS is one of our region's top employers? We have over 20,000 employees, including 11,000 classroom teachers that are playing a critical role in getting our students across that stage on graduation day. We also employ bus drivers, cafeteria workers, counselors, mechanics, nurses, data managers, custodians, and many others. When we say our people are our greatest strength, we back that up. And just as you heard in Commissioner Thomas's discussion of the support for public education in the budget, our budget is designed to improve staff compensation and to expand programming that supports their health and their well-being. These investments, and I really can't diminish this enough when we talk about, as an employer, the benefits that we provide, they're worth every penny because they acknowledge not just how valuable our educators and staff are, but having a quality staff, a happy staff, a staff that is motivated and excited about coming to work every day is what pays off the best for our students. And you don't have to take my word for it. The accomplishments I cited leave no room for doubt that we have some of the best staff in the nation. Now, I told you not to take my word for it, so I have to back that up. Here's the proof. Our district is home to many professionals who are recognized as the best in their fields across the state and across the nation. This past year, we had a school counselor and mentor who were both named top in North Carolina, and one of our media coordinators was honored as the very best in the entire nation. We have the pleasure of celebrating many finalists for state and national awards, band directors, school counselors, athletic directors, our CTE, Career and Technical Education staff. Some of these are recognized or in the finalists for the best in the nation, the best in the region, and the best in the country. But it's not just in this long list of award winners. Thousands of our staff go above and beyond every day for our kids. We have more than 3,000 teachers in our district who have national board certification. That's like the gold standard for teaching. We have the highest number of teachers achieving certification. About half of these teachers also hold master's degrees or more advanced degrees, doctorates. And I'm proud to share, beginning this month, we're among one of the very few districts in North Carolina that are stepping up to pay our teachers and social workers extra for the advanced degrees that they've earned. This was a campaign promise we made. This is one we've delivered on, and this is what helps keep highly talented, highly trained professionals within the educational profession. The benefit of a high-quality staff, high-quality educators, high-quality staff translate to award-winning schools. 44 of our magnet schools received national merit awards from Magnet Schools of America. Washington Elementary School, just down the street, named the top magnet elementary school in the country. Thank you. 7 of our schools received the Purple Star Award for their support of military families, and I could go on and on and on. It's easy when we have a lot of this good news, but why am I telling you this? We're not going to rest on our laurels. We've done good things, but we still have challenges. We still have to address these. The ever-changing world demands that we continually transform and adapt. I guess not unlike those Transformer robots in the Michael Bay movies, huh? We live in a world of continuous improvement, and this strategic plan is going to help get us there. We could look at things, I'll take a couple things out, mental health and why this is important, special education and why it's important. You know, with our county partners, we're committed to a joint multi-year plan to get to the nationally recommended ratios of service professionals in these areas. And what do I mean by that? So I'll bet most of you know that we have school nurses, right? I'll bet most of you don't know that one nurse might have to cover 4 different schools. It is so hard to deliver the services we need to our students when we don't have enough of the professionals to adequately cover, whether they're social workers, whether they're school psychiatrists or psychologists, whether they are the school nurses themselves. But working with the county, we're working hard to address those ratios. We also must take care of our staff so they can take care of others. When I was talking about benefits, this board's budget for the first time includes funding for permanent positions that will provide crisis support and wellness resources to our employees. And this is significant. Please hear me on this. If any of you provide mental health benefits for your staff, you know right now how challenging it is to actually find the professionals that they need to deliver those services. You're providing a valuable benefit that your staff might not be able to take advantage of. By providing this in-house, we're helping connect our staff directly with confidential resources to help them get the support that they need. It's no good to promise something if you can't deliver it. And this is something that we're doing a little bit different than other school districts, but I think it's innovative and I think it's paying great dividends. So, preschool funding, the commissioners talked about it. This is a great area of partnership where we know we want to have our students ready to learn when they come into school. Our budget funds more positions, more instructional assistants, more special education teachers that can really help the youth coming into our schools be ready on day one in kindergarten to read, to write, to recognize their alphabet, to really be ready to socialize with those other students and get everything they can out of their education. Other aspects of the plan, operational effectiveness. Did you know that Wake County Schools is also one of the largest landowners in Wake County? We have almost 200 campuses across the county with multiple buildings and school buses to manage. Wake County needs 20 acres for an elementary school, 30 acres for a middle school, and 64 acres for a high school. 45% of the school acreage we need is needed for compliance with environmental regulations and local zoning ordinances. So just start multiplying that out and think about what we need every day in terms of resource management. County leaders continue to support excellent school facilities for our students. And I really want to take time to thank Adrian and the Raleigh Chamber for all of the work that you've done in helping us promote our school bonds. We had a successful bond campaign this year, and we balanced it between essential new construction to help address the new growth in Wake County, as well as the equally necessary repairs and renovations to keep our existing schools clean, safe, and efficient. So while all of this is important, we'll never achieve the results that we want to in any of these areas without equity. For this reason, and in alignment with our board's equity policy, each goal of our strategic plan is set up with measures to track how we narrow the disparities in regards to race, ethnicity, and socioeconomic status. And again, I can't emphasize this enough. We've known for a long time that achievement gaps persist among demographic subgroups. And let me say, and you probably are aware of this as well, the pandemic not only brought those gaps to the forefront, it blew them up. And now we're seeing many of the subgroups as we work on the road to academic recovery. These students are not experiencing the same level of recovery as their peers. This is a problem that is affecting schools nationwide, but it's one that we have to deal with locally, intentionally, and very, very directly. Our Office of Equity Affairs was closely associated in developing our new plan. They worked with RTI International to interview a range of stakeholders, and we did a district-wide equity assessment. One of the findings of the assessment, in order to reduce these disparities, we first have to reduce disparities in student experience. When students come to school, they need to be able to learn. They need to have a positive, welcoming, inclusive environment. That means creating classrooms experiences where there's inclusivity and joy, and where teachers celebrate the unique gifts of every student. And this is happening in many of our classrooms today, but the data shows it doesn't happen consistently enough. So starting this year, we have intentional efforts through training and other resources to give teachers the tools they need to be culturally competent and empathetic educators, and it's going to benefit all students, not just the ones that might be behind their peers academically. Part of preparing students for productive lives after graduation, and this is something that I do think we have done well in Wake County, is helping them understand, appreciate, and value people from all walks of life to be able to make associations, to have common bonds, common experiences. This is one of the most overlooked and unsung benefits of public schools. It's one that I've personally benefited from. It's one that I see my kids benefited from throughout my life and my career here in Wake County. The classroom climate for all students will greatly improve when all students feel engaged, respected, and supported. And so achieving equity is a moral imperative, and it will produce greater academic results. The harsh truth is, despite all of those great numbers that I gave you, we have too often failed some of our students, particularly our Black and our Latino students. And I think this board is committed to turning that around. Correcting this injustice is the right thing to do, and our strategic plan will be the way that we do all of this. And now for the two most popular words in any public address or speech. In closing, our school system does continue to make tremendous impact on this community, one student at a time. And we're poised for even greater success. You heard the numbers. When people come up and you might hear someone with a gripe or something that they're unhappy about the schools, I can give you result after result after result, how we do compared to other counties, other school districts, other regions, the awards that our staff get, all of the great results we're getting. But we need the support of every parent, every community member, and everyone in this room if we're truly going to achieve excellence and equity for all students. I hope you'll take the good news today, as well as our plans for continued success. And I hope you'll continue not just to be a supporter, because we have a great supporter in the Greater Raleigh Chamber of Commerce and among you out there today. But I'm asking you to be a public supporter, one who speaks up when others deride or question our public school system, our schools, and someone who will combat the disinformation that you hear out there, someone who will talk about the needs that we have in our schools, but then show the results that we're getting for that investment. That's the North Carolina success story with our public schools, our community colleges, and our universities. And that's what's really helped to make Wake County truly one of the best places to live and do business in America, not just North Carolina. These are challenging times. There is a corrosive narrative out there. If it's not challenged, it will seep into our community consciousness. Don't let that happen. You all have helped to build our schools. You have helped us to educate tomorrow's and today's leaders. These are our schools, yours and mine, and anything worth having that's this important is worth fighting for. So people ask me why I do this. This is why. It's for my kids, it's for your kids, it's for all of our kids. I want to thank you for, again, continuing to stand with us in Wake County Public Schools, being such a valuable community partner, and just giving us the opportunity to share a lot of the good work we're doing. Thanks a lot, everybody.
All right, thank you, Vice Chair Chris Haggerty. I think I mispronounced your name, and I apologize. And to all of our speakers, we're going to call you all up here now so we can get started with the Q&A portion. So if our speakers can come up, also as well as County Commission Vice Chair Susan Evans, County Manager David Ellis, City Manager Marshall Adams David, and Interim Wake County Public School System Superintendent Dr. Randy Bridges. We're going to do the Q&A session, and your names are on all of the chairs, so you know where to sit. I always love covering these events because we get good news story ideas out of them. So when Vice Chair Haggerty was talking about in Lodi coming up with the cervical cancer detection, I'm like, well, my kid goes to Sanderson and they have an awesome STEP team. I was going to give them a plug to tell everyone, if you go to their competition, if you want to see some amazing students out there. But that's a good news story. So I do love covering these because we get our hand on the pulse, our finger on the pulse. Speaking of, if you have a question, you can just put your hand up. And I want to start with that because sometimes we tend to just ask general questions and then people have very specific ones. And I want to make sure that we can start with any questions you may have, especially since we've heard from all of our speakers now. So I'll give you just a sec, but we can throw your hand up high if you have a question and someone's got a microphone. I think that's coming around. Who has a mic? There you are in the back. 2 mics in the back, so no questions? Okay. If you think of one, just throw your hand up and we'll get to you. So we heard a lot about growth, managing growth, the steady stream of people that are moving into this area. It takes leadership to tackle a lot of those issues facing the growing community. So how can we effectively engage business and community leaders with you all, elected leaders, to address our most pressing challenges? So if you guys, I think there's a couple of mics, if you just want to take it and go, and if anyone wants to add, you can share the mic. So how do we effectively engage business and community leaders with our elected leaders to address pressing challenges?
Well, I got handed a mic, so I guess I'll speak. Hi, I'm Susan Evans, your Vice Chair of your Wake County Commission. You know, one thing I'll say is if you're in this room today and you're active with the Raleigh Chamber, you're already engaging in our work in some level, and we appreciate that. I encourage you, you know, to continue to participate, to go on the inner city visits, to go to the leadership conference, because that gives us a chance to talk to you folks one-on-one. But beyond that, you know, please stay engaged, and we often feel like, as Wake County Board of Commissioners, that we're doing a lot of awesome work on behalf of this county, and a lot of people have no idea what we're doing. So if you're, you know, bored some night, just watch videos of some of our meetings or read our streams. But also, we have lots and lots of board advisory commissions. We'd love to have people participate in those. If you're interested, you know, go to our WakeGov website to see what types of committees you could potentially serve on in an advisory capacity. And then I'll just mention, you know, we're always looking for partners in many of the efforts that we're doing. One of which that's been touched on earlier today is that we recently started a 3-school preschool program for income-eligible 3-year-olds in Wake County. The 4-year North Carolina pre-K program is funded largely by the state, and then we provide supplemental funding so that we're able to provide slots for every child that qualifies for the 4-year program in Wake County, and we're very proud of that investment. But the 3-year program gets no funding for the state, and that's something we began last year as a pilot program and are expanding in this coming year to 200 students. But we really need to meet the needs of about 3,000 plus students. We are looking for business partners who would be willing to participate with us. Wake County Smart Start is coordinating that program. They are a 501c3 nonprofit, and so I'll put a plug out there for any businesses. I know PNC has been a strong supporter of early childhood education. Wake Ed Partnership will probably get involved. We're looking for business folks that want to get involved in that effort, so I wanted to single that out specifically. Now I'll let others speak.
So, good afternoon. I will say this, I know Adrienne Cole is probably listening, and I'm going to borrow her phrase, but the secret sauce to this region is the collaboration that Vice Chair Evans talked about, where you have the public sector, the private sector, the nonprofit sector, the school system, all work together for the greater good. And if we can continue that as we continue to grow and as the faces change and people move into different positions, we will be well set for the future. But that is something that you don't necessarily find in other places. And so make sure that we are intentional about keeping that, make sure we're intentional about this is how we do business in Wake County.
So Commissioner, County Manager and Commissioner Evans took what I was really going to say about that secret sauce and collaboration, but I'm going to add another spin on it. I think it takes bold leadership for each of us to strip ourselves of our respective brands, our titles, and our labels, and have a conversation. I think communication is the key to kind of figuring out what are the most pressing issues and how can we all work together to bring about collective change and collective good. I think what we've seen particularly during the pandemic, is the resiliency of not only our respective organizations, but of this community and this region. And that is done simply by all of us having conversations and leaning on each other. We all tend to prop each other up when we need that help and assistance. And I think that bold leadership is what's going to be the defining piece that sets us apart from the rest of the regions throughout this country.
I think functions like this speaks to relationship building between the community and the elected officials and the commissioners and school boards. We're in the school business, and that's people growing. So we want to partner with almost anybody because our schools are clearly a reflection of our community. So these conversations are critically important. I think Chair Thomas mentioned two things that got my attention, that people were moving here that were 60 and older. And sometimes what we have to recognize is probably most of the citizens in Wake County don't have kids in school. And they want to know about a return on investment and how we building capacity and informing those people about what's happening in our schools and a direct connection with growth and development. And there's a reason why it may seem like it's difficult sometimes with all the growth, but would you want to be on the other end of that? And I would say not. So those relationship buildings and functions like this are critically important, but also let's think of some ways that we can engage those individuals in our county that don't have kids in school.
But that's a shift, right? Because all the years that I've been here covering it, it was always very young. This area was very, very young. So this is a big shift. What do you think is attributed? What's behind that migration of an older population? Do we know? Putting you on the spot.
It used to be that we had trailing spouses. Now we have trailing parents and grandparents. People are moving down here to be with their families. And that's one of the trends that we're seeing. But also what we're seeing, people selling their homes in California, New York, whatnot, and moving here because it's more affordable. So you've got both of those things combined. But certainly, like I met some grandparents who are here, said they moved here to be close to their kids. And we're seeing that over and over again.
That makes sense.
She's exactly right with all of that. And one of the things that we hear from with our planning staff when we get demographic updates as, our population, as the in-migration is leaning towards older folks. We've asked about that. And a lot of it has to do with the upward pressure on our housing prices. And those folks are in that point of their life where they can afford to pay for our houses, where younger families moving here are going to have a little more difficulty with that. That makes me very sad. And that may change, the distribution of our population. We see younger folks moving here having to go to the perimeter counties and not as easy to afford homes in the area. But I would like to say, along with what Dr. Bridges said, that surprisingly enough, even when I was on the school board a decade ago, it's always been the case that approximately 70% of the residents in Wake County did not have children in schools, but we do appreciate everyone being willing to make that investment. So that's just a statistic that everyone should be aware of.
Any questions in the audience? I want to make sure I'm giving everyone a chance so we don't. Here's one over here. Here you go.
Steve Rao, Town of Morrisville, council member. My question, I was just curious, North Carolina's received about $1 billion of ARP funding for broadband, and that's being led by Jim Weaver, the Secretary of Technology. I was just curious, how well covered are we in Wake County with our schools, our cities for broadband, and is there an opportunity for us to do more with the funding that's coming in from the ARP plan?
Sure. Good question, Councilman. And so we are covered fairly well, but there are pockets in Wake County where high-speed internet is not available. And so we've partnered with Spectrum, Charter, and I believe AT&T, and they are going to be recipients of some of the great grants, and we will look to cover those areas with high-speed internet.
Anybody else in the audience? I want to talk about challenges with growth. We report a lot on the lack of mass transit in our area. Can you talk about maybe where we stand with that and what the challenges are? This has been in talks, I know, for so long here. Just especially with the changes that are coming, with the Apple coming, with all of these things, how much of a balance, or how much does this come up in conversations when you are talking with company heads?
Well, I know that when Amazon was looking here, that was one of the things they mentioned, the lack of transit. And what they're really talking about is regional transit. So that is something that we have been working on since 2012, when we formed the Wake County Transit Plan. We're moving forward with the first phases of that. That's bus rapid transit. As I mentioned earlier, New Bern Avenue should be coming under construction this fall, 2-year process. We also recently received funding from the FTA for the Southern Corridor, which is Wilmington Street from downtown to Gardner. We have started design work. We're about 10% on Western Boulevard, and we're going to be starting a study on our 4th line, which is Capitol Boulevard in that area. So transit and these types of projects take a long time to get done. You have to go through a funding process. You have the feds to deal with in the FTA. There's a lot of homework that needs to be done in community engagement. So we started this process 10 years ago, and we're finally starting to see the results. However, the one thing we really need to focus on is regional rail and how we move that forward. We're going to have to pivot because of the changes in funding. But we have to make sure that the North Carolina Railroad, Norfolk Southern, and all of us are working together with Raleigh, Wake County, Durham County in our region to make this happen.
And I just want to piggyback on that. You know, it was the Wake County Commissioners that put into motion the Wake Transit Plan, and the voters in Wake County, thankfully, in 2016 approved an additional 1/4-cent sales tax that is targeted towards transit and transportation things. And the actual, it was a 10-year plan, and it's always rolling and it's always getting revised, but it's included, you know, several tenets, of which expanding bus service was the first, where we increased frequency and reach, and not just in Raleigh. We did a lot to expand frequency of routes in the core, but we've also partnered with the municipalities. Apex, for instance, has their first bus circulator route. Cary's had a fair amount of bus transit already for a number of years, but they're expanding and we're connecting. And then, as the mayor has mentioned, you know, we're also very focused on bus rapid transit. And then we've been studying how to do regional rail, and we, you know, were really, really focused on that and really wanted to make that happen sooner than later. But as she mentioned earlier, the FTA, we originally thought a few years ago that we would qualify for 50% matching grants from the federal government to do a rail that we wanted to do east-west from the eastern side of Wake County out to the western side of Durham County. And that is still a long-term goal, but we're just running into some obstacles right now because it looks like that 50% matching funding from the federal government will not be available to us in the near term. So we have a group that, of which I'm one, that serves on a regional rail subcommittee as part of the Capital Area Metropolitan Planning Organization and the Durham Chapel Hill MPO. We are working together to try to figure out next steps, but it is extremely important, and we are all well aware that as we continue to grow, we have got to have better solutions, not only to relieve traffic in the region, but to move us from a community that's dependent on every individual being in a car. So we are working on those efforts.
let's not forget the S line too, that the state is leading on. That would provide passenger rail service as well. And comes down from Richmond to, it will go through to Wake Forest and whatnot, but that's a whole other type of passenger rail service that we're seeing, and would really connect our rural areas to downtown, and all the way, like I said, through Wake Forest, which is
And the
very
North Carolina
exciting.
DOT is actually spearheading that project, but we're really, really thankful. With a former CSX rail line, it'll be a north-south corridor that we hope to see to come to fruition.
Someone in the audience had their hand up? No? Oh, yes, sorry.
Thanks for this great panel. Wanted to ask a quick question about water. What are we doing to meet our demand with all the growth and everything? There are plans to expand the water supply and sewer systems and everything. And how is the city and the county cooperating to get that done?
So very good question, and I would lead with the city and the county are very strong partners in the delivery of most public services, and water and sewer obviously being one. I would say we are in very good standing in our water supply and our water treatment. However, we cannot rest on our laurels with that. As this community continues to grow, there are continued requests and demand for additional capacity in some of our merger communities. So we have strong relationships with each of the merger communities in Wake County because we are the primary water provider. And it is something that stays at the forefront. And if I get the opportunity, I would just like to put a plug in. Last month, we found out we had the third best water in the world, not just the state, but the third best tasting water in the world. So we always win for around here anyway, but this one was a little bit better from an international perspective. So we work really hard to make sure that we protect that natural resource and that we're doing our best to make sure that there is capacity to meet the demands of this growing community.
Yeah, that was breaking news, I think, for ABC 11.
So one thing that the city and the county and many of the municipalities are working on is there's a one water work group, and they're looking to develop a 100-year water plan. That group was put together by former Commissioner Hutchinson, if he's in here, but they've been working for a couple years to really look at developing a 100-year water plan. Most places this size have a 100-year water plan, and unfortunately we do not. But that group has been working for about 3 years to move that effort forward.
We have time for probably just one more quick question because we want to make sure that we get everyone out on time today. So before we go, any other questions in the audience? There's one more. Oh, I think we put the mics away.
Yes, this has been a great meeting, the interrelationship of what is being done in the city, the county, and the school board. And I think straight talk is very important. One thing that was mentioned from Chris, and by the way, he talked about the real issues in the school system, and I'm very pleased of that. But I remember in the last strategic plan, there was a discussion about school pipeline to prison, and looking at a better Wake, and the goals and things are outlined very clearly, the direction that we need to go. But the thing that I wanted to comment on, that our working relationship with the school system has been better than ever before. I've worked with Mayor Baldwin on a number of items, but I was on the Raleigh City Council. But sometimes we just kind of skip over certain things. And with the new strategic plan, Chris and the school board, I'm hoping that we will be engaged in some way, looking especially at this pipeline from the school to our prison and those things that keep other people behind. And I think we are definitely looking in the right direction.
Thank you, Commissioner West. I would like to make a comment on it, and then I'd also like Dr. Bridges, if he would like to share some thoughts on that as well. I will tell you that the situation that you're describing is one that came up very specifically and very intentionally as we were looking at our strategic plan. I'm looking at some of our other board members. When we talk about disparities in issues like discipline, punishment, suspension rates are some very real things that we can look at. If you have a student population, a subgroup that might make up 15% of a school, but then makes up 60% of the disciplinary incidents, you have to question that, and you have to look at why. Now, this is not to say that every student that ever gets cited for any disciplinary action shouldn't have been cited, because we know there are issues that happen in schools. But how many of these are very subjective? How many of these are from a teacher who hears something and doesn't know what it means, or doesn't understand it, or thinks that a tone of voice is not appropriate? How many see what might be good-natured joking around and think it is unruly? Or there's so many areas of discipline that really are in the eye of maybe the teacher or the staff member. And what we have to do is we have to make sure that our staff, as they look at maintaining, ordered professional schools where all children can learn, aren't treating some students unfairly, treating them very differently than other students. And I think that when we look through, when our staff gets the equity training, when our staff learns more about, understanding all of the students in their classroom, we will go a long way to helping address a lot of those inequities. And one of the things that the plan does, it actually requires us to measure, to track, and to report back on this work. And so I hope that we will do a good job on this, but if we don't, we're going to have the numbers that will hold us accountable. And Dr. Bridges can speak more to that.
I've struggled for a long time with that phrase. When it pipeline to prison and you associate that with schools. So I changed the places that I work and started talking about a highway to higher education, or to the military or to the workforce, because sometimes we will glaze over all those really extraordinary things that are happening for kids based on that over $100 million worth of scholarships. But do we have room for improvement? Yes, we do. And I think the directional system of the school system, with the strategic plan and with the framework and with the equity plan, and looking at everything through that equity lens, will lend itself to that. One of my favorite people is Dr. Phil Schlechter, and he had a saying, and he wrote, if the process of change outside your organization is happening more rapidly than inside your organization, then your organization is at risk. So there are so many things around public schools and around education in communities, and as I said, the schools are a reflection of the community. There's so many things that are going on that if we don't evolve in our thinking about how we use time, people, space, technology, information, if we don't use those resources differently, then we're not going to be able to capture the new kid. It's not the kid, it's not when we were in school. This is the new kid that has social media and always has a device in their hands and can communicate around the world in seconds. So those challenges have to be incorporated into our strategic plans and into our equity framework and the things that we do to serve kids. Thank you.
All right, we're going to leave it at that. We're out of time. So if you have any further questions, obviously they're all available on social media or their email. But this is going to conclude the 2023 Raleigh Chamber State of the City, County, and Schools. Thank you to all of our speakers for taking time out of your busy schedules today. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. And on behalf of the Raleigh Chamber and its membership, we are very grateful for all of the sponsors, the leadership, the partnerships that make these events possible and makes our region moving forward economically successful and attractive for business, and also a wonderful place to live. So thanks again to our sponsors as well. And please visit raleighchamber.org/events to view upcoming events. We'd love to see you at the next one. We hope you'll join us again soon. Thanks so much and have a great afternoon. Thank you.